maybe some dodging and weaving to get this whole corporate tax thing through. Maybe not doing it right away, doing it in stages. Of course, the goal of the part of the Trump administration and leading members of Congress is to take the top corporate rate now at around 35%, bring it down to 20%. But in order to make it more palatable and to make it fit within the deficit parameters that they have, do it over a number of years, not just 1 year. To market watcher Carol Roth and National Taxpayers Union Executive Vice President Brandon Arnold. Carol, what would you think of that?
Well, first of all, it's another day and it's another way for Congress to try and screw up tax reform. Frankly, the whole idea of trying to keep things revenue neutral is silly. The president and Congress have all campaigned on reducing spending, so they should be reducing spending. Once they do this, you have to understand it's going to take some time for it to filter through the business cycle. You don't make these tax cuts and all of a sudden see the benefit in the next quarter. So they need to man up and get this done right away, Neil.
All right, but better something that's closer to what you want than not getting it at all. And the argument seems to be, Brandon, that this might be the only way to get it done. Could you live with that?
We could live with that. I don't think we're near to that point yet, because right now we are still trying to have as pro-growth a tax package as we can possibly get. That means making the rate take effect immediately and making it permanent. But unfortunately, there are a lot of lobbyists in Washington right now that are working their tails off to try to get carve-outs and preserve their deductions and preserve their credits. As they're successful in doing so, it means the price of the bill increases. That needs to be offset somehow. Hopefully we don't get to that point, but one of the considerations for how we offset that increased cost would be to delay the corporate tax rate implementation. That's something that nobody wants to move towards. The Big Six, any of the authors of this plan do not want to go in that direction.
But it's sort of like something in their back pocket if it comes to that. But Carol, I mean, you said something I think profound at the outset here about what would be big, and if you water things down and if you come out and you worry about paying for tax cuts, there is a camp, certainly within the Republican Party, very big about deficits and worrying about them, that this be paid for. But by definition, that makes the tax cuts themselves not exactly Reagan-esque, right?
Well, I think we're in a different time period, and I think we have to do things in a way that makes sense for the time that we're in 2017. And I do think, there is a time lag anytime you do these things. What they need to do, on one hand, is be curbing their spending. That's the promise that we're going to drain the swamp and we're going to do things more efficiently.
They haven't shown any inkling. They've not shown any inkling.
And Neil, if they need some help with that, I am available to go line by line and show them where this is available, because you and I both know there are plenty of places where there's overspending that can easily pay for it.
No, absolutely. And Brandon, one of the things, and to Carol's point, I mean, Democrats have failed at this, Republicans are failing at this idea to rein in just even the growth of government. I mean, you are pilloried in the press elsewhere if you're just trying to contain the growth either of a treasured benefit program or even when it comes to the military. And I'm just beginning to wonder if both parties are so aligned to their sacred cows that they won't curb that, then where are we going here?
Yeah, this tail on spending is not a happy one, and we've seen that time and time again. Even when Congress has committed to reducing spending, like it did in 2011 with the Budget Control Act, they've walked that back on numerous occasions, and there's talk about eviscerating it altogether. So that's a sad tale to tell, but I think what we need to do now is separate the tax conversation from the spending conversation. If we try to bite off too much right now, we're going to get none of the above. That is the realistic approach, I think, going forward into tax reform. Yes, we're going to have to accept some imperfections. Yes, we're not going to get as much growth out of this as we'd like. But if we're going to get this done, we're going to have to accept the imperfect and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
All right, we'll watch closely. Guys, I want to thank you. A real quick peek before our next story about where the Dow is on this. Optimistic that they'll get over these